So we're finally at the end of Foundation Series 2, and episode 10 had a lot of questions and a lot of setup to fulfill. And yeah, like this episode brought it all together, answered a few questions, left a few more mysteries, and created a few more as well. So, if you've not seen Foundation Series 2 Episode 10, this will contain spoilers, but as always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review, so let's get to it. But just before we do that, just to say thanks for taking the time to choose to watch this channel. I really appreciate it, and if you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, and if you make it all the way to the end, leave a like on the video as well. So the episode opens with a Gale monologue talking about the questions kids ask their parents. And this isn't the first time that we've had one of these. In fact, they usually bookend the Foundation's first and last episode. Then we see Harry coming back to life in the water, cut with picking up where they left off on the beggar with Telem Bond's death. And it turns out that Gale felt Harry drown, seemingly saving him and sort of taking over his body to escape. So, suck it who people said it was Imperial nanobots that were keeping him alive. So this is how he got round the whole Telem mind reading thing, I suppose. Or I should say, how they got round Telem. And it was never Harry's corpse in the water at all. It was just Gale making people at Salvor and Telem think that it was him all the time. So I guess this kind of explains it and brings Harry and Gale closer together than ever before, after seemingly being at odds throughout the entire season after landing on Ignis. So for almost 3 episodes they were working together without anyone's knowledge, and I know this explanation won't please a lot of fans, but I'll get to that in a minute. Because they are still trapped on Ignis with a planet full of people who can mess with your mind, and Harry just killed their leader. But they seem to have quickly changed their tune with Telem's death as she was controlling them all along. So he now has a great giant planet full of telepaths that owe him a favour, and the young kid, Josiah, could still be the mule, or Telem could still have jumped bodies, but that's coming up in a little bit. Once they've made peace with the locals, Harry does ask how old Telem could be. All the while, the boy Josiah's in shot, so is he in her? Or are they going to become the mule? That was the big question I had while I was watching this. If you watched my live streams over the weekend, I did say that they've got a body swapping telepath without a body, so maybe she could jump into another person's body, one of her followers on the planet, and that's exactly what's happened. So she's taken over Josiah's body and he tries to kill Gale, but Salvor stops him getting shot in the process. So I guess he's not the mule after all, but Telem could still be. It's sort of left open if she is still out there. There's no way to know if she jumped into someone else's body, really. But Salvor, as I said, took the hit for Gale and dies in her arms. Before she dies, Salvor says that this proves that the future can be changed, as it's going against the vision that they both seen, so now the plan can get back on course, but at what cost? And they do kind of address this later on in the episode. They have a funeral for Salvor and her sacrifice, but as I keep saying, you've got to focus on what this show focuses on, and it does focus on this one girl who keeps appearing, and she's in a few of the shots the last time that we see Ignis as well. So is Telem dead? I'm going to do a video on that in the coming week, so make sure you're subscribed and you've got notifications turned on so you don't miss it. Gale and Harry talk about how in order to save the masses, individuals must die, and they need to learn to deal with that, and that the losses lead them to wins in the end. And he assures her that the plan can still work. Harry wants Gale to go back into hibernation and sleep while he stays behind to train and build the second Foundation with the telepaths. He says that she'll wake up once a year to check on the progress of the plan, so in effect she's becoming the sort of Vault Harry to these guys on Terminus. But one question that they don't answer is, how did Harry originally come back into flesh and blood? If this plan did go ahead, would Harry age? We still don't know what he is. Yet. But she convinces her to join him in the long sleep, so I guess he's also the Vault Harry to them as well, I suppose. Anyway, they're both left to sleep until they're to be woken up next, and I guess they're going to pop up eventually and maybe things haven't gone to plan. And One of the last scenes that we see before they drift off to sleep is the girl that stares at them intently, so I'm guessing if Tellum isn't anyone, she might be in her. Now on Trantor, Demerzel is back to take care of the Dusk and Ru situation, and she knows what Cleon's told them, and Dusk is upset. She's really the power all along behind the Empire. Demerzel points out it's a sort of what you won't know won't hurt you scenario, and she tells him her version of events that Cleon was sort of deluded into doing all this in the first place. She remembers the boy that she met, not the man that chained her to this for eternity. She points out that she's never really been free thanks to the directive that Cleon gave her, and Ru wants the wedding to proceed to end the dynasty, and Dusk wants to reprogram her, neither of which she said would work and that she'd kill them if they tried to attempt reprogramming her. So I guess that's the defence Cleon put in, and it's a pretty big one when you think about it. Not even he or another one of his clones can reverse the directive that he's put in. So I do wonder in the future how they're going to get round that. But the big reveal in this is that she's behind the attack that we've seen in episode 1, and that's been hanging over the season since, well, episode 1, and it was the very first scene that we've seen her and Day in season 2. And she's been thinking about this long term because she arranged the attack to frame Seraph for it. And it turns out that the Queen-to-be isn't going to make it down the aisle. She's taken into custody straight away and framed for this. Demerzel didn't want Day dead, she just wanted Seraph framed. Ru says they can always wipe everyone's memories, but as Seraph's people can now undo that and reverse it, Demerzel can't let them live. She knows about Dawn and Seraph too, but there's a great mirror here of episode 9 when Dusk tells Demerzel that he forgives her before accepting his fate, and she quietly walks out of the cell and we don't see them again. And you can really see doing this actually bothered her, and it's not the only time in this episode it happened. Dawn doesn't take Seraph's arrest well, and Demerzel tells her fate's in Day's hands. She explains that this restores order, and Dawn notices a mark on her neck that Dusk previously mentioned to him, and it means betrayal. So he doesn't know yet, but he's got an idea not to trust her. Seraph is held awaiting Day's return when Dawn breaks in and frees her. Demerzel is monitoring what's going on Terminus with the fleet as Dawn is making a public announcement about the death of Day and now how he's going to marry Seraph. But it's all a ruse using the face scramblers that we've seen in earlier episodes. Dawn contacts her on the ship saying he knows about Dusk and Ru. She says her programming will force her to hunt them both down and that a new Dawn is going to be birthed. So Dawn and Seraph will be on the run and a new threat to Empire, I guess, along with her child. And again, you can see that she's conflicted at having to obey her directive and hunt him down and kill him. But Demerzel decants the replacement clones, all 3 at once, which does seem weird, and she does mention that this is the first time she's actually had to do 3 at once. And we see how she's actually controlling them in a more literal sense, literally programming them once they've emerged. She then shows them the Prime Radiant and says that they've got work to do. Day asks if she can understand it, and she says not all of it, but yet she can read enough that she knows that some things are coming, and she says this with a bit of a smile on her face. So, going back to Terminus, Day's fleet is still in orbit of the now ravaged planet, basking in his glory, having destroyed the Foundation. He orders the fleet to jump, but not home to Trantor. He wants to seek out other worlds the Foundation has influence on and destroy them. He makes Constant list them all before saying he's going to destroy them, starting with her home planet, or at least where one of her parents is from, Thespis. Bell isn't on board with this and tries to convince Day he's already won, but Day wants to wipe out every planet that they've touched. Bell tells him that going to all-out war will cause the fall that he's trying to avoid, as it's an unnecessary massacre, and refuses Day's order. Which I guess is why Demerzel made sure that Bell was on board. She wanted him to do this and stand up to him. Day orders the spacer to jump the ship after Bell refuses the order of Thespis, and we haven't had much on the spacers in the last few episodes, so it seems as if they still have a role to play. And they play it here. The spacer has caused a chain reaction to wipe out the fleet in orbit of what's left of Terminus, and Constant realises this has all been part of Harry's plan using Hobor. The mark on his arm was to basically signal to cause all this, so Harry was relying on this attack to take down Day, and Day really gets his arse handed to him by Belle when they start fighting. And it's also very telling that the guards just stand there and watch while they're going at it throughout the corridors of the ship. But Belle, with now nothing to lose because his husband has passed away, does give Day a pretty solid run for his money before Day throws him in the airlock and spaces him out. But twist upon twist, Belle activates the wristband that Hobart used earlier on in the season and switches positions with Day, so it's Day that gets spaced and not Belle. And I mentioned in my previous review that they did focus on these and that they probably would be back. And I generally did see this coming once they started fighting. It was just a matter of how they were going to get there. Fleet is still about to be wiped out and there's only one way off the ship, but for only one person. So is it going to be Hobart or Constant? Hobart sees his mission as being over, whereas hers is just beginning. She's a true believer in the faith and the Foundation and has been all her life. So she takes the escape pod, leaving Belle and Hobart on board to contemplate their fate and decisions, and drink some of the wine that we've seen Hobart carry about all this season. Now, we don't really see them actually get destroyed, so they might be back, but it does appear as if they're. Constant is drifting in the pod, and we see her running out of air and supplies when she drifts towards a massive version of the vault in space. She boards it and on board finds Polly, who you know was dead because he was on the planet that got destroyed, and he explains that everyone has survived the destruction of Terminus by hiding in the vault. So the destruction of Terminus was always part of Harry's plan. Like I said in a previous video, Harry plans to win the war, not the battle, so sometimes he doesn't mind and sometimes he finds it necessary to lose. So everyone that you've seen die at the end of episode 9 is still alive inside the vault, but they don't specify if they're literally all alive and walked in, or this is some sort of copy of them, the way the Hall Harry or Vault Harry's a copy of the original version. So they could be copies, I guess. But we see all those people and it's hard to tell. They did point out earlier on in the season saying that the Vault could manufacture and make food, so they might all be flesh and blood, I guess. But I want to know what you guys think. Are the people in the Vault all directly alive, as in they walked through in the door to stay there and be protected from the blast? Or are they some sort of copies like Harry? Let me know in the comments below. And that's kind of where the episode ends, apart from the fact we get a time jump to 152 years later. We see the mule who's talking about the dreams he's had about Gale, and he knows that she's still out there. So he's on a quest to find her before she finds him and get his evil plan back on track, I guess. But this goes back to what I've been saying all along since they had the visions. Do they create the mule by seeing the visions and then, you know, it's a paradox kind of scenario, or was this always going to happen? I really hope that they clear this up in Season 3. Although the time jump is to 152 years, it doesn't say it specifically if that's where Season 3 is going to get set up or where it's going to end up. We've still got the Dawn and Seraph and Demerzel stuff solved, so we've got to see how that ends, so I don't think we're going to get a straight 152 year jump, but you know how this show likes to play with time. Now, as always, I'm going to be doing a series of breakdown videos on this episode and Season 2, so if you aren't subscribed, make sure you are so you don't miss it. But this was an absolutely jam-packed finale, and I know that not a lot of explanations are going to leave fans happy. We still need to know how Harry came back. How he was saved, I don't know how I feel about that. I think I'm going to have to let it rest for a few days and see how it lands. I definitely think Tell Bond is probably still out there, but I'm more interested in what's going to happen with Empire and how Demerzel is going to deal with the whole Rogue, Dawn, Seraph and Child situation. As I said, I've got more videos planned on this, and as always, I'm going to be doing a stream this Sunday for the final episode of Foundation. We had an absolutely brilliant time last week and a lot of theories, and I know the show is over, but we're still going to chat about it and have theories and fun. In fact, I might even call it Foundation. No, I won't, because that sounds terrible. So I'd love it if you join me this Sunday. I'll put the times up on screen. As I said, I'm going to be doing a series of breakdown and theory videos for the remainder of the season, probably for the next week or so, so make sure you've got the notifications turned on so you don't miss it. But as always, this is just my point of view. I want to know what you guys think about everything that happened in this finale. I know there was a lot going on, but I really want to hear your thoughts. And as always, my name's Al. Thanks for watching.